Hi. So here we are with the chapter 5 of Communication Skills 2, Semester 3. So in this chapter, we'll be talking about technical writing and effective communication. The intended learning outcomes of this chapter are to express concepts, ideas, proposals effectively to different audiences or stakeholders in a given context, and to employ various tools and technologies in aid of effective professional and technical communication. Right. So, first we should know what technical writing is. Technical writing is not the mere presentation of information and thought, but rather its actual communication. It does not matter how pleased an author might be to have converted all the right data into sentences and paragraphs. It matters only whether a large majority of the reading audience accurately perceives what the author had in mind. So, the main concern in technical writing is to make the majority of the audience understand what the author is trying to say. So it can be, it is not like reading a novel or something more classical. Technical writing has to be in a generally understood uh, language and a generally understood vocabulary, but also that can be professional. Okay, so that's what technical writing means. It is easier to define technical writing by differentiating it from all other kinds of writing. There are mainly three differences. So it's precision, intent, and legal implications. From these three criterions, we can deviate technical writing from other types of writing or non-technical writing. So precision is to compare the precision needed for a process documentation of a nuclear plant and a new paper article. Technical writing needs high precision as whether it could lead to disasters. So if you are writing a technical writing piece about a nuclear plant, you have to evaluate the outcomes, the persisting circumstances, and so on. So it just doesn't have, it just should not be something vaguely speaking about the topic. It has to be precise. Then intent. The intent is the objective and does not base on emotional properties. Therefore, technical writing incorporates concise and rational statements or information that are actionable. So the intention of the writer has to be objective and it should not be affected from the emotional properties of the author. It has to be largely understood by the majority of the audience. Then there are legal implications. While any kind of writing can be libelous, like libelous, it can be making legal liabilities, and error in technical writing can have serious consequences. So one can say that any type of writing can cause a liability on the author. But then when you take technical writing, it has even more serious consequences if you write something incorrect. Because the purpose of a technical writing piece is to make awareness, to spread knowledge, to let someone else know about something they don't know. So if you say something incorrect in a technical writing piece, you will be disseminating wrong information. So it can cause liabilities, serious liabilities, serious consequences in legal perspective. So technical writing errors could lead to financial loss, damage to property, environmental catastrophe, injury, or even death. So you see, the consequences are pretty serious, right? So non-technical writing contains emotions, accusations, speculations, and blame which are not supposed to appear in technical writing. So when we go forward in this lesson, you will understand, after knowing what exactly are technical writing, you will understand how they differ from the non-technical writing and how the technical writing pieces do not contain emotions, accusations, speculations, and other emotional elements. So if I am to introduce technical writing to you, first thing you have to know, or first thing you have to consider, is who writes technical documentation. Because not everybody is going to write technical documentation. So any profession or trade could have a competent of technical writing. Therefore, everyone is a technical writer at least occasionally. So in any profession or trade you find in the society, there can be a component of technical writing. Like any professional or any trader will have to do some technical writing uh, pieces at some point in their career. So it can be on day-to-day basis or it can be occasional, but everyone will have to do it at one point. So the style of technical writing may depend on the practice in the profession. So the best is if you look at the examples. Now, if you take a doctor and a lawyer together, both of them would be doing technical writing. But is it the same form or is it the same style that a lawyer and a doctor write their technical writing? No. So it's different. Their language is different, their delivery is different, how they narrate is different. So likewise, the style of technical writing will always depend on the practice in the profession, right? Taxonomy of technical writing. So this diagram in the screen shows you the taxonomy of technical writing. So technical writing can be of three types, or rather be of three different orientations, out of which professional orientation can also be of four types, which is scientific writing, technical reporting, business communication, and electronic media. So likewise, certain technical writing pieces flow down from the main group of technical writing. So let's go on and see each type of technical writing pieces and their purposes and what they do. So technical reports, what are technical reports? They are documents that are prepared for supervisors, subordinates, peers, customers, clients, and various government agencies. These can be typical technical reports, such as there can be such as progress reports, feasibility studies, specifications, proposals, and so on. So all of these typical technical reports are usually used in among working environments for different purposes. Then there's business communication. This includes a wide range of correspondence that must be written in the course of business activities. So this can be between clients and a management, or clients and the service provider, or employees and the management. Uh, it can be the top management and the lower management. It can be anyone, any player in the business environment, right? So write. So if you take resumes, cover letters, um, HR communication, administrative communication are some of the business communication technical writing pieces. Then there's scientific writing. What is scientific writing? It includes experimental research and associated documentation. So whenever a scientist uh, does an experimental research or something into research, they will always document it. And because they will have to publish it and so on. So such writing pieces, such technical writing pieces are called scientific writing. So, so if you take scientific narrative books, journals, magazines, conference journals, newsletters, it even can be websites and blogs. All of these based on scientific research or a scholarly publication would come under the scientific writing category. Authority of technical writing. So we say that technical writing pieces have authority in them. This means that there is reliability to the scientific content, which tends to be much higher if manuscripts submitted for publication are reviewed by technical peers, and tends to be much lower if the writing is not peer reviewed. So there are, now if you are conversant with research publications and so on, you will know that there are certain ways to assess the quality of a research paper or a publication. So when you say an article is peer reviewed, uh, there is a certain validity or value that is given to that uh, particular writing piece. Then if it's single blind reviewed, there is another degree of uh, validity given to such technical writing pieces. So there are three types, or there are three methods of peer reviewing defined in technical writing. They are, the three types are the single blind method, double blind method, and the open peer review method. So most professions incorporate authority in technical writing by reviewing the material by using independent expertise groups or organizations organized by the community. Right? Now, in the next few slides, we will look into the meaning of the three methods of peer reviewing, which are single blind, double blind, and open review. And also we will look into the advantages and disadvantages of the three methods separately. Single blind method. So the author does not know the identity of the reviewer in this method. You are just referred to a reviewer who is unknown to the author yourself. You don't know the person who is reviewing your article, and you get reviews accordingly. This is the single blind method. The advantages of this method are that the anonymity allows reviewer to be honest with any influence from the authors, and knowing the author would allow him to understand the background of the work. Okay, so there are, like, you will be getting honest feedbacks from the reviewer. But then there are also disadvantages in this method. Since the author is known to the reviewer, the feedback or comment would be biased, and there could be potential discrimination that are not based on the technical criteria such as nationality, uh, gender, race, etc. Right? So that is how it goes. The double blind method. Author and reviewer both do not know the identity of the each identity of each other. So this is in contrast with the single blind method. In the single blind method, the author doesn't know the reviewer, but the reviewer knows the author, right? In this method, comparatively and contrastingly, both the reviewer and the author doesn't know each other, right? So there are again advantages and disadvantages in this. The level of anonymity allows both reviewer and author to be protected against any criticism, right? Then review is fair without much biases. The review will be without a biased opinion. It will be frank and honest. The disadvantages are that full anonymity is not guaranteed as the identity could reveal through writing style, area of work, etc. Okay? And also, the background of the author is not revealed, so the judgment is purely based on the written document. So even if someone has written some very qualified person having written an article could be rejected based on the written document without knowing, whereas the reviewer doesn't know the background of the author. Then an open peer review. In this method, author and the reviewer is known to all participants during or after review process, right? So the advantages of this is that encourages accountability resulting in quality review process, and reviewers are motivated to study in detail before commenting as their opinion is going to be in public. There's a burden on the reviewers, and knowing the author would allow him to understand the background of the work. The disadvantages are the review could be biased based on the seniority of the writer. So even if somebody has written, let's say, a bad article, but if the author is a senior or someone who you can't criticize in open, you would just, the reviewer would give him a good review. Reviewers might refuse to review due to post-review criticism. Since the reviewers are exposed to the public, reviewers might get reluctant to give honest criticism. Right. So this diagram shows you the authority of content and speed of publication of technical steps. So you see how the cross sections happen, how archival journals can be both books and peer-reviewed magazine and so on. So how the cross sections happen and how that how the authority can affect the speed of publication uh, is shown in this diagram, in this graph. Now we will move on to understand the technical writing basics. How to do a technical writing. In addition to the language skills, there are a set of basic practices that you need to follow in technical writing. So you have to structure your writing, you have to know your audience, you have to choose the right words, you have to avoid trapping in writing, and you should practice to do the 5 C's in technical writing, and also you have to adhere to referencing rules, right? So external balanced structure. Now let's take one by one the basic practices and see how and what you have to exactly have or possess in doing a good technical writing piece, right? So structuring your writing is one main component. If you organize the content of your writing into major sections, subsections, and so on, then the relative number of each of these should be uniform across the document. So, for example, if you have 5 subsections, you for each major section and 5 subsections for each subsection, then it is good to have the fairly similar number on each major section. So you have to have a good sketch or a structure. However, based on the context, you may be provided templates, the structure could be different. So there are points that you can deviate from. So the balance structure has the internal balance structure, where you mean if you organize the context into major sections, subsections, and so on. So this is what we talked about. It has been repeated. Internally, then the relative length of each of these sections should be uniform across the document. So, for example, if you provide half a page of content for major sections and content of 2 pages for subsections, then it is better to follow the same convention throughout the document, right? But then there may be differences in the structure depending on the context and the provided templates, like we spoke in the previous slide. Then internal and external balance. So the internal and external balance provide consistency and a uniform organization of content within a document. Well-structured document would represent the pyramid shape if your structure has been presented as a tree, right? So shapes other than that are considered to be less structured and need improvement. So if your writing piece, technical writing piece, is internal and external balanced, you would get, if you structure the like, if you can display the structure of your writing into a diagram or a picture, that should more or less look like a tree, which has a top on the like a Christmas tree. There is a pointy top on top, and the rest of it flows down, widening the space. So if it does not fall that way, which it could possibly mean that your writing piece need to be improved. Then there are the 5 C's of technical writing. So whatever you are writing in the technical writing piece has to be correct, clear, complete, consistent, and changeable. So I hope I don't have to go into detail and explain each meaning of each word here, because it's quite understandable that the 5 elements or the 5 C's are essential for every technical writing piece. Then we have referencing. What is referencing? I think we have spoken some elements about referencing in our previous chapter 4 of this curriculum. However, we will again talk about it in the year, not in lengthily, but somewhat. So every outside source that you use must be referenced, including websites, interviews, television programs, conference papers, and so on. So whatever you refer to in your technical writing piece have to be referred to, have to be given credit for, right? If you use information from any source literally, then it must appear in quotations or offset somehow in the case of very low quotes, right? So in doing references, you should know how to find the right references, because you can't be giving citations and referencing quotes from anything and everything you find. It has to be the right references. That is how the referencing can add value to your technical writing piece. So you should use a balanced list of references, like it has to have all types of referencing material, books, journals, websites, and all types of it. You can't just limit yourself to only books or only websites or so on, right? So books are quickly referenceable because it's accessible, because it's easy. If you go into a library, you can do uh, the reading of a book, but then it takes time, right? Then there are conferences. You can attend related conferences and gather information, but they are not fully vetted. Then there are journal articles, right? But then journal articles are often too theoretical. Then we have web references. These web references sometimes might not have the same vetting and cognitive active authority as the other types of references. But one good thing about web references is that we can expect reference articles to have more updated information than books. For example, if you take a book from 2019, if the book is not revised, the book will be having information and data from 2019. But if you take a well, how do you say it? A well reviewed and updated web reference article, that even though the original article has been uploaded in 2019, it is acceptable. It is more expected that it has been updated throughout the time with the statistics, numbering, and all that. So that is one good thing about web references. So, and also you should be mindful in referencing to not cite articles from anonymous authors. It has to have a good author, because a good article will always have a person who has authored it, right? So the correct balance, correct mix of referencing sources will always add color to your technical writing piece. Okay, now let's move on to referencing styles. What are the referencing styles? The most common referencing styles are the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers referencing style, which is also known as IEEE. Then there's Harvard referencing style and Oxford referencing style. Oxford referencing style is the most commonly referencing style used in legal writing. Like if you are writing a legal research paper, you would probably be told to do the referencing of Oxford referencing style, or it's also called Oscola referencing style, right? Harvard is the generally used referencing style. It's not as complicated as Oscola or the Oxford style, but it also has certain information required to do the Harvard style. Okay. Referencing, when you do a technical writing piece, there is a process that you will have to follow. So this is called the writing process. You will first have to brainstorm about the idea, then do a proper draft, then revise, then edit according to the revision, and publish. So sometimes you may think that the writing process ends when the article is published, for which the answer is no. An already published article or a technical writing can still be brought back to brainstorming stage and developed throughout the time. So that is what a good article would look like, right? An article would not stop the writing process of the article would not stop when it reaches the publishing stage. A good article will keep on developing. Writing tools. What are the writing tools you can use in technical writing? You should first identify the tool categorization. So authoring tools are there, screen capturing and screen capturing and annotating tools are there. Picture drawing and image editing tools are there. Then there's publishing tools, both free and open source softwares and proprietary commercial software can be found for each of the above uh, categories. And content of the module will be focusing mostly on FOSS or free and open source software and freely available authoring software and tools. Okay. The authoring tools can range from pen and paper to interactive digital documents. So you can do your authoring with a pen and a paper, or in the most advanced stage, you can do it on an interactive digital document, right? So based on the requirement of the technical documentation, a number of aspects need to be considered in choosing an authoring tool. Okay, so it is to be circulated by hand, you will always have to use the pen and paper. Or if it is to be circulated online, you will have to do a digital document. Likewise, uh, the authoring tool has to be chosen given the need of the article, authoring article. So the cost of ownership and import and export will have to be considered. Then productivity tools and features, teamwork, cross-platform support, security and permission are some aspects that you have to consider in doing this. Choosing authoring tools, the first aspect is the cost of ownership. Tool used should be financially feasible for the author or organization. Financially feasible in because there are licensing expenses that may have to that the company or the person will have to purchase the software. Then there's cost of hosting. If it is collaborative tool, then you may have to host it in a server and maintain. Then cost of keeping documents. If you have purchased an online solution, then there will be additional cost of document retention. Then the cost of backup, right? For storage, you might need additional devices. Then cost of plugins and extensions, whereas you will have license of subscriptions may cover only the basic software, so there could be plugins needed to purchase the full version from third parties. Then there are import and export concerns. The tool should support the formats you want to import to your technical document. You have to know whether the tool you are purchasing or choosing is going to support what you want to do, right? So using templates to prepare the documents, importing drawings and charts, importing subsections from the other tool will have to be decided in considering whether the tool supports the format you want to import. Then the tool should support the output you want to produce, right? So the formatting on fonts, file types, quality printed outputs, vector graphic support, and etc. has to be considered to know whether the intended output is supported by the selected tool. Then productivity tools and features. Writing tool may support productivity tools built in or as plugins. So it can be either way. The grammar and spelling checking, centralized styling capabilities, optimized image and chart placement, reference management, version management, content reuse, conditional content, and etc. Okay. Now, then there's teamwork, the real-time collaboration and workflow-based collaboration. Real-time collaboration says that each member of the team will practice simultaneously on content development, whereas the workflow-based collaboration states that the document preparation work is defined as a workflow where each member would contribute to the work sequentially. It's not all at one time, but whenever the time comes in a sequential manner. A free tool supporting both these needs to a certain extent is Google Docs. So Google Documents, if you have worked on Google Documents, you know how easy it is for teamwork and for doing collaborative or teamwork in making technical writing pieces, because you can always track who made the changes made to the document, and you can always see if the people are engaging in it, because you can see who is engaging in the document. Then no matter the circumstances, if your computer is connected to the network, the Google document will always be safe. So those are very good plus points when you do teamwork and collaborative work in doing a technical writing piece together. Then cross-platform support. Different technical writing personnel may prefer different platforms depending on their expertise, availability, suitability to the circumstances, and so on. So some people could be easy with like comfortable with computers, some may be comfortable with tabs, and so on. So if you can take cross-platform support, it will be convenient for all the people. And certain documents you can open only on a laptop. Some documents do not support in mobile phones, and such issues can also be combated if you use cross-platform support. The requirement could be to support on multiple device types and support on multiple operating systems. Then security and permission. You have granting access to the technical document may have security and permission requirements at different granularity. The technical document could be having confidential information, so it has to be secured, and you can make permission requirements to be submitted in accessing the document, and so on. The document may need to protect from changing. Sometimes you, when you do, now if you take Google Docs as a tool, the authoring tool, you can sometimes give author access, sometimes give read access, and so on. So some protective measures may have to be taken from to avoid other people from changing the document or the authoring tool. The document may need to be protected from printing. Sometimes printing may have to be restricted. LaTeX is a tool for technical writing. So this is something technical. I hope you can do some research by yourself in understanding what LaTeX is, because you would be knowing about this more than me, of course, since it's a technical tool. This slide shows the basics about LaTeX as a technical writing tool. And that continues in the slide. So these links were extracted from the original reading material that is provided by the UCSC. So if you need access to these links, you can always refer to the main document and get the links for accessing for LaTeX and the technical characters. This also has accessible links. Right. Technical reporting. So this system requirement, these are system requirement specification, a document that defines and details the functions and features of a system or software application, right? This document is used to establish an argument between the organization requiring a software or a system and the software system provider, right? So this document will be estimating costs, schedules, and risks, and establish a basis for validation and verification. Technical procedures, uh, technical procedures are another type of technical reporting. These are descriptive documents that includes step-by-step instructions for assembling, processing, and organizing things. So these are more like the manuals where where instructions are given for assembling, processing, operating things. A procedures document should contain the purpose of the procedure, like if it's about safety, if it's a safety procedure, why the procedure is implemented. Likewise, the purpose. Then safety information, preconditions, what must be true before the procedure is conducted, and so on. So now, if let's say if you are giving a procedure document for a machine, you have to give safety information about the machine, right? Whether to use a helmet, whether to use gloves, and so on. Then the qualifications of those who will conduct the procedure. Now, if it's about a manufacturing, let's say it's a rubber manufacturing machine for which you are giving the procedure document, then you will have to specify in the procedure document that a properly qualified gloves manufacturer or a latex engineer or a rubber engineer will only be uh, like given access to conduct the procedure. Likewise, then the list of materials that should be used in the machine, the list of tools that could be used, probably like if the machine involves bolts and nuts, you can always specify what type of bolts are used or what size and so on. And it should specify step-by-step instructions, then the conditions as to what will be true if the procedure is followed correctly and so on. Then there has to be a troubleshooting section. If the machine goes wrong, what and how it can be made back. Then a list of the frequently asked questions or the FAQs. Then there are user manuals. Now this is something similar to what I spoke earlier, but this is more technical, right? A technical writer need a good understanding of the overall system to write user manuals. So these are something about process machines and so on. So whoever the technical writer writes a user manual should have the good understanding of the overall system of the uh, system. You are writing the like about the system itself. Then the technical writer should thereby involve in all phases of the product development. The user manual should be written at the end of the development process as features will change until the final system delivery. This user manuals should elaborate things more visually than text contents, right? If you take the user manual of your washing machine at home, it will have diagrams, pictures, how to plug in, how to open the lid, how to do the clothes, how to put the clothes in, how do you put washing powder, where do you put the softener, and so on. So all that would be used in more visual content than text. And the user manual should be organized based on task or workflow. how the machine is going to work. Here comes something very interesting. Now, this is something that you will have to do at some point in your life. That is preparing a CV or a resume. So I hope you all have already been there once or twice in life, and you, even if you have or haven't, the day you will have to make your own CV is not so far. You will have to do it at some point very near future. So a resume is one of the most personal uh, of business communication and most important technical document that you will ever prepare. So technically, a CV or a resume means the way how you represent yourself to, or you give the uh, first impression about yourself to someone who doesn't know you. Right? So it should be something something that introduces you to someone who you don't know, but also something that makes the reader feel like they know you after reading it, right? So it should be short. It should not be too lengthy. And if the best length for a resume would be to have 2 pages or maximum 3 pages. And if you are to have more than 3 pages to your resume or the CV, you should have very good reasons to do it, right? So the common elements of the resume includes the name and contact information, statement of objective and summary, experience, education and training you have received, certifications, expertise, awards, affiliations, and references. Right? You have to address all of these components in your in doing or in writing your CV or the resume. So you should not mislead yourself to in like you should not mislead yourself to uh, put everything and anything about yourself in the CV. That's a rule. That's a very important rule, because now per se, let's say if you are applying now, let's say I am applying for a legal manager position in a company. So it is not necessary for me to uh, incorporate my uh, like it would be important for you to mention it, but it would not be relevant to lengthily talk about the sports I have done or the music career I have had in my life or anything else, because that is not going to have direct contact or direct influence or impact on the job I am applying for. So you can't, the basic rule is that you can't have one CV made for yourself ever once in life and apply for all the jobs in your life with that one document. You have to keep updating it specifically depending on the job. Each job has to have different edits to it, right? One common CV for all the jobs is not going to get you the job, technically, right? So that has to be kept in mind. So when you do the changes accordingly and uh, in line with the jobs you are applying for, you can highlight the facts, highlight the components that are going to add value to your character in being considered for a certain job. So what is advised in making a CV is that You should always, now you will always be getting to know about a job through a job advertisement or a notice, no? So there are certain keywords that are used in a job advertisement. So whenever you are applying for a job, you should always alter your CV according to the keywords of the job uh, advertisement, right? That is something you have to practice in life. So by doing all these alterations, you should signify your value to the hiring organization. In giving out about your experiences in your CV, your experience is probably the most important component of the resume. So because you are evaluated through or by the companies you have worked with, the work you have done in your positions, and so on. So you need to be thorough, accurate, and honest in reporting your experiences in the CV. So you have to list all the experience in reverse chronological order, which means you have to you have to list the most recent one on the very top and flow down the next recent one, the next recent one, and so on. So the first job you have done in your life has to come in the last of the list. Then include duration for each experience as shown in the example. So bad statements and good statements should be understood whether or not to be included in the experience section. So this is why you should alter the resume according to the application you are making. Then education and training and the certifications you have received, the dates and information about them has to be precise. So you always focus on the employer's interest for knowing your qualifications to evaluate you for the further process. The references have to always be included in the resume with permission from the references. They should be able to elaborate about you whenever they are asked about it, because they should be able to endorse you, in other words. It could be a supervisor from one of your earlier jobs, or someone who can recommend you to a person, and it should not be a peer or a subordinate. So these are certain tips that you can use in organizing resume. How you do the organizing, how do you do the order of it. You have to always highlight your strengths and minimize, not to be lying about your weaknesses, but highlight your strengths. You can always not highlight on your weaknesses, but highlight on your strengths. Then honesty is a number one policy in doing a resume. Then strictly avoid humor in your resume. You can't be making jokes and fun in your resume. It has to be a serious document. Then delivering your resume via special means doesn't usually help. It has to go to the employer in the usual course they have specified. Right. The dissertations. Dissertations are also one important technical writing pieces that you will have to do at one point in life. at least once in life. uh, the structure of a dissertation could change from institute, like from the institute to which you are submitting it, or depending on the degree program you are doing it for. But there are more generic structure for a dissertation would be to have an introduction, literature review or a background study, methodology, design, result and evaluation, conclusion, future work, and references. So dissertations can also be spoken or referred to as research papers, where you do a research by yourself and report it into a report paper. Like it's more of recording or publishing your research outcomes. Okay, I think that comes to the end of the chapter 5 about technical writing. So we will catch up with chapter 6 and 7. Thank you.